Isekai anime are by far the greatest tales of all time. The story of an MC that was reading our pretty boring and uneventful life. Until one day they get transported to a magical fantasy realm, where they can actually make a difference. But we don't like to brag and show off our super awesomeness insanely overpowered abilities. We prefer keeping them a secret, revealing them when everybody else and we suspects it. Thanks for joining us and welcome to Animeology as we run through some of our favorite isekai animes, with an overpowered main character that actually prefers to hide their powers. Number 10. My Next Wife as a Villainese. Enjoyable romantic comedy that's pretty heavy on the romantic side. My Next Life as a Villainese is a really well-rounded and enjoyable watch. Combining a number of different elements, this series doesn't get ahead of itself, and really progresses nicely. Katrina, the daughter of a nobleman, hits her head one day and remembers her life as an otaku. Realizing that she's actually been transported into one of her favorite romance games, but as the bad guy. She starts to remember that the villains in this game ends up either killed or exiled, and she does not want this to happen. A really interesting tale of Katrina, an extremely unlikable android-readable character, as she keeps a secret the fact that she knows a great deal about the future of this It's a Kind world. There's a great deal of well-written comedy of errors, as she tries her best to avoid her eventual doom. Both a fun watch and a very interesting premise that brings a nice spin to the classic isekai genre. Number 9. Arifureta. You don't get much more classic than this high-quality isekai fantasy adventure. Following the constantly buoyed Hajime due to his awkward conversations with the most perfect girl in the class, Kori. One day the entire class gets teleported across to an incredible isekai world, and gets given some pretty impressive powers. Everyone except her Jimmy, of course. RMC gets this basic ability to modify solid materials, something that a craftsman or a smith would use. Of course he keeps this secret for fear of embarrassment, but betrayed by one of his classmates one day he is left stranded in a dungeon. With only one basic power to help him, he starts to realize that his power is far greater than anyone could have realized. Meeting an interesting cast of characters in the dungeon as he desperately tries to escape. We start to realize just how powerful Hajime actually is, even though he remains shy and tries to hide his powers out of shame. An interesting setting that leads you in a strange and horrifying place. The opening arc of this series is really phenomenal. The tale of revenge and the growth of a Germany as he starts to develop his powers is a really impressive thing to watch. Number 8. Cautious Hero. This hero is overpowered but overly cautious. Hero is one of those series that comes along and just turns the whole genre on its head. Taking a reasonably basic premise and putting an original spin on it, makes this one of the most memorable fantasy comedy series that we've seen in a very long time. The core premise behind Cautious Hero is the fact that the MC is so incredibly overpowered, but so unbelievably conscious. A goddess in charge of saving her world from a demon lord summons the most powerful warrior she can find. However, this cautious hero refuses to do anything until he is trained and feels comfortable, and ready enough to face any encounter, no matter how basic it may seem. This leads to some high-class comedy that will literally have you clutching your sight. The story progresses and ramps up in a very interesting way. The core chemistry between the conscious hero and the goddess is also very fun and engaging to watch. It is nice when an anime sets out with a clear end goal and you can just tune in and enjoy the very comedic ride. Number 7. Infinite Dendrogram. This anime brings a very interesting spin to the traditional RPG isekai anime. It attempts to do so with a heavy dose of science fiction. Trust us when we see it definitely works out. Set in 2043, technology is developed that allows people to have their 5 senses transmitted through the game. We follow Ryuju, and his in-game character restarting alongside his brother and a team of other interesting characters as they set out to get fully invested in this game, and attempt to make a life for themselves within it. Ryuji has extremely strong willpower, and during one of his earliest battles, he actually loses his arm, but is still able to overcome his opponent. This boosters reputation around the whole world, with people talking about this insane new fighter, and earned him the reputation the Unbreakable. Trust me, it gets way cooler than that. Number 6. Isekai Cheat Magician. What sets Cheat Magician apart from most anime MCs is that they are so unbelievably strong and they acknowledge it. After stepping through a magical circle one day and getting sent our fantasy world filled with magical beasts and epic adventures are a hero wound of their newfound magical powers. This magic they soon realize is directly tapped into our mental magical forces. The rarest and strongest magic users on this planet. Due to this insane power, our hero considers themselves cheat magicians. To be fair, it does sound like they are cheating, keeping this insane power a secret due to the sort of bad and shady attention it can attract. Follow these two childhood friends as they tease a will they want their relationship that is really engaging to watch. Kings, queens, mysterious women. The story of the Isekai cheap magician unravels in an interesting way as you slowly get to grasp both the world around the hero, and their troubles it's facing. Some very quality story arcs that keep you coming back for more. Number 5. Death March to the Parallel World Rhapsody. Ichiro is a 29-year-old game designer that works coarsely with the RPG games. Testing the games, identifying bugs. He works way too hard and doesn't have much of our life outside of that. One day, following a sweep, while at work through the weekend, waking up in a parallel world a lot like one of the games he's been working on. Ichiro is immediately thrown into a battle against an army of lizard people. Our hero uses one of the newly founded added abilities he programmed into the game and kills everything around him, including a god. One character instantly killing of god. Ichiro instantly reaches max level and becomes one of the most powerful characters in the game world. He sends out in order to learn more about the world around him as he slowly gathers a group of trustworthy friends, but remains careful to keep his overpowered stats and power a secret. A really interesting way of looking at the Isekai RPG genre. Death March chooses to focus on the shared adventure and the very fun action scenes above or else. Number 4. In Another World with My Smartphone. A bit more lighthearted than most, we start off with a pretty unique entrance into the Isekai realm. Our 15-year-old MC Toya is accidentally killed by a god. As a means of an apology, the god offers to resurrect him but can't bring him back to his own world. Brought back to life in a fantasy world with a single request, his old smartphone. The god modifies the smartphone, although he can't use it to call home. Toya's smartphone becomes unbelievably high-powered, charged by magic, able to access all the information on the internet's GPS functions. The application of this kind of technology in this magical fantasy isekai realm is unlimited, and makes this perhaps the most powerful device. Furthermore, the god grants Toya some heavily improved physical, magical, and mental abilities. Toya does not waste his second chance at life, and travels the world solving political problems, quests both great and small, whelks gathering a fun group of eyes to adventure with. Fun, light-hearted, and enjoyable to watch all around. I bet my spots overall the enjoyable characters and interesting enough arc makes this a quality watch. Number 3. Bofuri. Caddy with her endgame character Maple gets dragged into this hugely popular RPG game. Maple fears damage and chooses to max out her defensive stats, leading to some very interesting battle scenes. Maple Fury maxes out her defense. She is extremely slow and lacks any magic, but her incredibly high defense makes her almost invulnerable. This creates some of the most engaging battle scenes that you can imagine. This isn't some epic fantasy action anime with crazy powers from all over the show. Maple is forced to think creatively with her extremely limited toolset, and leads to some of the most unexpected accomplishments throughout the series, and slowly putting her on the path to becoming one of the strongest players in the game. The characterization of Maple is extremely compelling alongside the interesting mechanics of her being a fully defensive hero. There's no stranger and unexpected magical power is coming from her just heavy defense that she needs to turn into a win. Number 2. Kanazi Flashy. What sets Quincy Flashy apart from most Sekai enemies is that the MC isn't insanely overpowered in his fantasy realm, but rather has the secret ability that sort of hints at his greatness. We start off with a pretty average and basic high schooler that gets teleported into a universe that's actually very similar to his own. However, magic is replaced with science and civilization is under constant attack from horrifying beasts. The greatest students specialize and perfect their magical abilities to help defend humanity. Mufon remains the son of a poor working-class father, and has dreams of one day becoming one of these powerful magic users. Eventually extended into a magic school, our MC is mocked due to his poor upbringing and lack of serious magical ability. Constantly getting bullied and laughed at, this really doesn't feel like that fun of an isekai world. But we soon realize that Mofan is actually able to harness both the powers of rain and fire. Although most other magic users can only use one. Although he is naturally capable of being a truly versatile magician, Mufon still has a long route ahead of him in order to improve and perfect his magical ability. And number 1. Didn't I say to make my abilities average? A brilliant series that you should definitely check out. We follow Miss Sato. We follow Masato, a high achiever at school that struggles to make any friends at school. The story jumps right into it as she dies protecting a young girl and is teleported to an isekai realm. In an effort to be normal and to make friends, Masato wishes to be completely average, just a normal person that's capable of living a normal life filled with friends and with loved ones. She was made average, except this average involves the strongest to the weakest beasts, making her around 7,000 times more powerful than the average human, and about half as powerful as an ancient dragon. Join Masato as she tries to live her life as normally as possible, regardless of the fact that she is one of the most powerful beings on the planet. A really great sense of humor in this epic fantasy world. You definitely need to check this anime out.